My name is Su Qingran, and I am the youngest associate chief physician in the obstetrics and gynecology department at Haicheng First Hospital. Today marks my 36th consecutive hour on duty. I had just taken off my white coat, still carrying the strong scent of disinfectant. When the door to the consultation room was forcefully pushed open, I was looking down, organizing the nearly completed postdoctoral application form for an Ivy League university in the United States on my desk. It was my dream, and it was also the full stop I was drawing on this marriage that existed in name only. Dr. Su, please add me to the schedule. The voice was as cold as the first frost of late autumn, carrying an undeniable tone of command. My hand, holding the pen, stiffened slightly as I looked up and met those deep, pool-like eyes. It was Shen Hanchuan, my husband of 3 years, the powerful head of the Shen group at that moment. He was carefully holding a slender woman. Lin Man wore a plain white silk dress, her face pale and almost translucent, like a white lotus that could wither at any moment. Half of her body leaned into Shen Hanchuan's embrace, her hand tightly clutching the sleeve of his suit, her fingernails tinged with a triumphant bluish-white. Hanchuan, maybe we should just forget it. Sister Su is usually so busy with work. For something this minor, I can just see any emergency doctor. Lin Man's voice was delicate, carrying a clear sob. Shen Hanchuan didn't even glance down at her. Instead, his gaze pierced me like a cold nail, his tone indifferent. She's the most outstanding obstetrics and gynecology specialist in the entire hospital. Only with her examining you can I feel at ease. Su Qingran, go prepare and give her a full prenatal checkup. I looked at the specially booked specialist appointment slip in his hand, with my name signed in a flamboyant, sweeping script. My heart ached for a moment, but only for that moment. 3 years had passed. Even the warmest blood should have frozen solid in that cold Shen family villa. Expressionlessly, I put on a light blue medical mask, covering half of my ice-cold face, leaving only a pair of eyes that were calm to the point of emptiness. Since you've made the appointment, you are my patient. I sat back down in the examination seat, my voice steady and unruffled. Mr. Shen, please wait outside. The examination room is off-limits to men. Shen Hanchuan's brows furrowed almost imperceptibly. He was probably accustomed to my past obedience, to that Su Qingran who would keep the lights on for him at home and get up to make hangover soup even when he returned in the middle of the night reeking of alcohol. He seemed to be waiting for me to lose my temper, waiting for me to question him like a shrew, demanding to know why he had brought his mistress to humiliate me. But I simply put on a pair of disposable sterile gloves with a crisp snap. Hanchuan, Lin Man timidly tugged at the corner of his shirt. Shen Hanchuan stared at me for 3 seconds before finally letting go, his voice cold. I'll wait for you at the door. Don't be afraid. The moment the door closed, the air in the consultation room seemed to freeze. Lin Man's pitiful facade instantly fell away. She walked over to me in her stiletto heels, casually flipping through the postdoctoral application form on my desk, and let out a scornful laugh. Sister Su, still dreaming of going to the US for further studies, Hanchuan says that a woman like you, with such a strong career drive, is simply not suited to be the wife of the Shen family. The Shen family needs an heir, and you, in these 3 years, there hasn't been the slightest sign of a baby bump. No wonder he came to me. She stroked her flat belly as if showing off, her eyes full of provocation. There's already a Shen family heir in here. Hanchuan says that as long as I can safely give birth to this child, the position of Mrs. Shen will be mine. I didn't respond to her, not even giving her a glance, just skillfully adjusting the ultrasound probe. Lie down, pull your pants lower. I coldly interrupted her boasting, my tone as if speaking to a medical practice model. Lin Man was taken aback by my indifference. Lying down on the examination bed with a mix of embarrassment and anger, the probe slid over her abdomen, the cold gel making her flinch. I stared at the flickering black and white dots on the screen, my gaze growing sharper. As an obstetrics and gynecology specialist, I can spot the signs at a glance. Lin Man's uterus is perfectly shaped, yet it lacks any of the characteristics typical of early pregnancy. The so-called embryo on the screen is nothing more than a pre-recorded dynamic image, cleverly overlaid on the monitor through a tiny, hidden projection device concealed at her waist. This trick might fool an ordinary doctor, but to someone like me, who has seen tens of thousands of ultrasound images, it's as clumsy as a joke. Not only is she not pregnant, but due to long-term use of certain hormonal medications, her endometrium is extremely thin. Dr. Sue, how is it? Is the baby healthy? Lin Man tilted her head, beaming with a bright smile. I leisurely pulled out a tissue, wiped the coupling agent off the probe, then removed my gloves and tossed them into the yellow medical waste bin. Indeed, it's very healthy. I deliberately emphasized the word, turning around to face her smug expression. Miss Lin, you've played this deception quite well. Even someone as shrewd as Shen Hanchuan could be manipulated by you. Lin Man's face instantly changed. She abruptly sat up, her eyes flickering. What do you mean? Are you trying to slander me, accusing me of faking a pregnancy, whether it's slander or not? A simple HCG test will tell, but I suppose you've already prepared a fake urine sample, haven't you? I sneered, stepping closer to her, my voice dropping to a low whisper. Lin Man, if you want to climb the ladder by faking a pregnancy, that's your business, but you should never have dared to book an appointment under my name and come to my territory to provoke me. Just then, the door to the consultation room was pushed open. Shen Hanchuan must have heard the commotion inside, as he walked in with a dark expression. Seeing him, Lin Man immediately threw herself into his arms like a startled fawn, bursting into loud sobs. Hanchuan, Sister Sue, she said my baby is a bastard, and she even threatened to kill the child in my womb. She's so terrifying. Shen Hanchuan's face instantly darkened to the point where it seemed like water could drip from it. He glared at me sharply, his eyes filled with disgust and disappointment. Su Qingran, not only are you jealous, but have you lost even the most basic medical ethics? The child in Man's belly is the flesh and blood of the Shen family. How dare you harbor such thoughts? Looking at his deeply protective and affectionate demeanor, I couldn't help but feel it was utterly absurd. This man, whom I had loved for 7 years, from medical school to after our marriage, I once thought he was just cold by nature. But I never imagined his heart was so biased. Shen Hanchuan, I'll remind you one last time as well. I picked up the application form on the table and, right in front of him, signed the final stroke in the signature box. Instead of wasting your time yelling at me here, you should take her to get her head checked. And since you want a child so badly, we'll step aside and make way. I flung a long-prepared divorce agreement from the drawer, landing it precisely in front of them. I've already signed it. I'll leave with nothing. I don't want a single cent. From now on, you can accompany whoever you want for prenatal checkups, and raise whoever's seed you please. Shen Hanchuan froze. He stared fixedly at the divorce agreement, a crack appearing in his previously confident expression. Su Qingran, are you throwing a tantrum with me, over such a small matter? You want a divorce? His voice was hoarse, carrying a hint of panic even he hadn't noticed. This isn't a tantrum, Shen Hanchuan. This is a notice. I stepped past them and walked straight toward the door. Also, nurse, come in and draw blood from this Miss Lin for an urgent test. Since Mr. Shen doesn't trust my medical skills, let the data speak for itself. Stop right there. Shen Hanchuan tried to reach out and grab me. I sidestepped to avoid him, my gaze as cold as if I were looking at a stranger. Mr. Shen, please show some self-respect. I'm now heading to the dean's office to submit my resignation letter. My life no longer includes you. I strode out of the consultation room, the wind in the corridor tousling my hair. The pent-up frustration that had been weighing on my chest for 3 years finally began to dissipate. Meanwhile, in the consultation room behind me, Lin Man's face turned pale at the mention of blood tests. While Shen Hanchuan's furious roars intertwined with Lin Man's excuses, the real show was just beginning. On the winding mountain road leading to the Shen family's old estate, the engine of the black Maybach rumbled with a heavy, oppressive sound in the quiet night. Shen Hanchuan sat in the back seat, half of his face hidden in the interplay of light and shadow. The chilling aura he exuded made the driver behind the wheel too afraid to even breathe heavily. His fingers pressed down forcefully on the crumpled divorce agreement, his gaze dark and menacing. Su Qingran, do you think you can get my attention this way? He muttered to himself, his voice low as if grinding his teeth. Playing hard to get is fine, but taking it too far just becomes boring. I sat in the passenger seat, completely absorbed in scrolling through the email my Ivy League mentor had sent me, not even bothering to spare him a single glance. Mr. Shin, narcissism is a disease. I suggest you make an appointment with the psychiatry department, I said without looking up, my tone as cold as if I were reading a death report. Tonight is Grandma's 80th birthday banquet, and I promised her I'd attend. After we finish this act, I'll see you at the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow morning at 9, Shin Han-chwon sneered, suddenly reaching out to snatch my phone with such force that it seemed he might shatter the screen. Going to the US, for a Ph.D. Do you really think your so-called medical dream is worth anything without the Shin family? With just one word from me, not a single hospital in all of Asia would dare hire you, let alone provide any recommendation letters. I finally turned my head and calmly stared at his arrogant face. 3 years ago, I was utterly captivated by his decisive and ruthless demeanor. 3 years later, I only feel that the soul wrapped beneath this skin is pitifully barren. Shin Han-chwon, what else can you do besides using your power to bully others? I took back my phone and gently patted away non-existent dust. Don't worry, I have a big gift for the Shin family at tonight's birthday banquet. The car came to a smooth stop in front of the brilliantly lit Shin family ancestral mansion. The moment I pushed open the car door, countless camera flashes lit up. Shin Han-chwon instinctively extended his arm toward me, signaling me to take it, to play the part of that enviable model couple everyone admired, but I turned a blind eye, lifted the hem of my custom-made gown, and walked straight onto the red carpet. Shin Han-chwon's hand froze mid-air, his face instantly darkening like the bottom of a pot. Entering the banquet hall, the air was filled with the fragrance of perfume and the glitter of jewelry, all belonging to the elite of Haicheng. Shin's mother, my always haughty mother-in-law, was surrounded by a group of society ladies in the center, and Lin Man, surprisingly dressed in an elegant yet expensive moon-white cheongsam, was standing obediently by Shin's mother's side, handing her tea. Oh, isn't this our busy Dr. Sue? Shin's mother glanced at me sideways, her tone sharp. I thought you only had eyes for those bloody patients and would even miss grandmother's birthday banquet. Look at Man here, she spent 3 whole months copying scriptures to prepare this gift. Where can you compare to such filial piety? The surrounding society ladies all revealed playful smiles. Who didn't know about the Shin family's eldest young master bringing home a life-saving benefactor? In their eyes, Su Qingran was now nothing but a discarded wife. Lin Man shyly lowered her head, but her hand meaningfully caressed her lower abdomen. Her voice was neither too loud nor too soft, just enough for those around to hear. Auntie, please don't say that. Sister Sue has also worked hard for the Shin family. I've been feeling very tired lately, and the doctor said I need more rest, but for Grandma's sake, no matter how tired I am, it's worth it. Oh my, man, sit down quickly. Don't tire out my precious unborn grandson. Mrs. Shin exclaimed dramatically, personally helping Lin Man to sit down. She then turned and scolded me. Su Qingran, what are you still standing there for? Can't you see Man isn't feeling well? Aren't you a doctor? Come over here quickly and take her pulse. See how the young master is doing. Shin Han-chwon had also walked over by now. He didn't stop Mrs. Shin's humiliation. Instead, he looked at me with a scrutinizing gaze. As if waiting for me to lower my head, I stood in the center of the hall, the dazzling crystal chandelier overhead casting a glow on my black gown, making me look like the queen of the night. There's no need to check my pulse. I took a document from my handbag, a mocking smile curling at the corner of my lips. Since mother-in-law is so concerned about the young master, why not take a look at this comprehensive physical examination report I just retrieved from the hospital this afternoon? Lin Man's face instantly turned pale. She abruptly stood up, trying to snatch the document. Sister Sue, this is my privacy. How could you just take it out like this? Privacy, I sidestepped her, my voice ringing clearly throughout the banquet hall. Miss Lin, in the public healthcare system, forging medical records is a serious crime. Everyone, take a look. This Miss Lin, who claims to be 2 months pregnant, underwent a severe intrauterine adhesion surgery just 3 weeks ago. Moreover, the report shows that she has been taking contraceptive medication long-term, leading to ovulation disorders. So, I ask, whose divine child are you carrying? The entire room erupted in an uproar. Mrs. Shin's smile froze on her face. Trembling, she snatched the report, staring at the clear official seal and date on it. then turned her gaze to Lin Man. Man. What is going on? Seeing that the truth had come to light, Lin Man's tears fell instantly. She collapsed weakly into Shen Hanchuan's arms, saying, Hanchuan, I just love you too much. I was afraid you would leave me, so my stomach, it hurts so much. She suddenly let out a piercing scream, clutching her stomach as she slid to her knees along Shen Hanchuan's suit. Pants. Miraculously, a pool of blood seeped onto the marble floor. Blood. Man is bleeding. Mrs. Shen screamed. Su Qingran, you vicious woman, it must be you who upset her. Though Shen Hanchuan was skeptical, seeing the pool of blood, he instinctively picked up Lin Man and roared at me. Su Qingran, even if she lied, do you have to push her to her death in such a situation? I watched coldly as the blood, which was oddly pinkish and even carried a cheap strawberry scent, slowly walked over and crouched down in front of Lin Man. Miss Lin, your acting is quite good, but the quality of this fake blood bag isn't great. I suggest trying a different brand next time. I picked up a piece of broken transparent plastic film from the pool of blood on the floor, right in front of everyone. All of you have seen the world. Real obstetric hemorrhage is dark red or bright red, accompanied by blood clots. But this pool, Nurse Ju, tell everyone. What is this? The intern nurse, Xiao Ju, who had been hiding behind the crowd, stepped forward trembling. It's the special effects makeup blood that Miss Lin asked me to buy for her this afternoon. Lin Man's crying abruptly ceased. She looked like a duck whose neck had been grabbed, her face turning from pale to blue, then from blue to purple. Shen Hanchuan seemed as if he had been slapped hard across the face. He let go of her hand in disgust, and Lin Man fell heavily to the ground, looking utterly disheveled. Shen Hanchuan, this is what you call your pure first love. I stood up, elegantly clapped my hands, and looked at Grandma Shen, who had remained silent in the main seat. Grandma, I wish you boundless happiness like the Eastern Sea. This gift is the last bit of innocence Su Qingran gives to the Shen family. From today onward, the Shen family's foul atmosphere has nothing to do with me. I turned to leave, but Shen's mother, unwilling to let it go, shouted, Su Qingran, don't think that just because you exposed Lin Man, you can secure your position as Mrs. Shen. You're a hen that can't lay eggs. Slap. A crisp sound of a slap echoed through the hall. It wasn't me who did it, it was Grandma Shen. She stood up shakily, looking at Mrs. Shen and Shen Hanchuan with disappointment. Shameful creatures. Qingran has worked tirelessly for the Shen family over the past 3 years, and this is how you treat her. Hanchuan, if you don't beg Qingran to come back, don't you dare step foot in this house again. Shen Hanchuan's face was ashen with fury. He strode over, gripping my wrist tightly, his eyes seething with a violent rage. Su Qingran, have you had enough of this nonsense? Come back with me. Go back. I let out a light, bitter laugh and forcefully shook off his grasp. Shen Hanchuan, look, who is that? The banquet hall doors swung open once more, and a man in a tailored suit, followed by several assistants in black, filed in. It was Haiqing's top legal team. Mr. Shen, I am MS, Su Qingran's legal representative, the man at the forefront said, adjusting his gold-rimmed glasses. MS, Su has entrusted us to file for divorce on her behalf. Given that you have maintained a long-term extramarital affair and engaged in fraudulent conduct during the marriage, we will be seeking a judgment for you to leave the marriage with nothing. Shen Hanchuan seemed to have heard the biggest joke of his life. You want me to leave with nothing? Su Qingran, have you gone mad? Whether I'm mad or not, you'll soon find out. I leaned close to his ear, speaking in a voice only the two of us could hear. Shen Hanchuan, have you forgotten whose name is listed as the inventor on the 3 most critical medical patents of Shen Group over the past 3 years? Since we're divorcing, I won't just take myself away, I'll take half of Shen Group with me. Shen Hanchuan's body stiffened abruptly. In that moment, what he saw in my eyes was no longer gentle affection, but a chilling abyss deep enough to drown him. I walked out of the old mansion without looking back. The night breeze was cool, but I knew that the life that truly belonged to Su Qingran had only just begun. At the top floor of the Shen Group, in the CEO's office, the soundproofing here is excellent, but at this moment, Shen Hanchuan's rapid breathing is clearly audible in the empty room. On the desk in front of him, piles of urgent red-headed documents are stacked, and in the most prominent position at the center lies a Printed copy of an electronic admission letter from across the ocean, Su Qingran. Is this your confidence? Shen Hanchuan slammed the paper onto the desk, his fingertips turning white from the force. You think that by applying for a postdoctoral position, you can completely escape me? Don't forget. The Shun Group donates tens of millions of dollars to major medical laboratories every year. With just one phone call from me, your spot will instantly become worthless. I sat on the leather sofa opposite him, my posture relaxed and composed, holding a cup of coffee that the secretary had just brought in. The steam from the coffee rose in wisps, blurring my indifferent eyes. Mr. Shin, your information is outdated. I took a sip of coffee, my tone calm. That was my plan from last week. Now, I'm not just going to study, I've been invited as a core technology holder to establish my own laboratory. Nonsense. Shin Hanchuan abruptly stood up, walked around the desk, and stood before me. Looking down from above, you're just an obstetrician gynecologist. What else can you do besides holding a scalpel? Those so-called patents are nothing but the achievements of the lab team. You're just listed as a name. I'm giving you a chance to withdraw the divorce application. What happened before? I can pretend never occurred. I set down the coffee cup, producing a faint clinking sound. I raised my head and met his eyes, filled with a desire for control and arrogance hidden beneath a cool exterior. Shen Hanchuan, do you really think those patents are just for show? I chuckled lightly, pulling out a pre-copied contract appendix from my handbag. The original code and logical framework for the novel non-invasive genetic screening technology are all stored in my personal cloud, and for this project, Shin Group has already invested 1.2 billion yuan in advance funding. If I take the technology with me, Shin Group won't just face massive breach of contract penalties, it will also be expelled from the International Medical Association for false advertising. Shen Hanchuan's pupils suddenly contracted. He clearly hadn't expected that his wife, who had been quietly waiting at home and never inquired about company affairs, would now have him by the throat at the intersection of academia and business. Are you threatening me? He gritted his teeth, his voice squeezed out from between them. No, this is called cutting losses. I stood up, straightening my tailored business suit. Shen Hanchuan, for the past 3 years, I've managed the Shen family for you, endured your mother's provocations, and even stayed up countless nights to help you solve the technical problems in the company's medical sector. Now, I'm just taking back what is rightfully mine. Just then, the office door was abruptly pushed open. Lin Man barged in from somewhere, clearly still reeling from the scandal at last night's birthday banquet. Her eyes were red and swollen, and the moment she saw me, it was as if she had encountered the murderer of her father. Su Qingran, you crazy woman, what on earth have you done to Hanchuan? She screamed, rushing toward me. Shin Group's stock price hit the limit down as soon as the market opened today. The old guys on the board are all pressuring Hanchuan for an explanation. Are you really determined to ruin him? I looked at her coldly. The way Lin Man was now, there wasn't a trace of the aloof white moonlight left. Instead, she resembled a vulgar shrew whose tail had been stepped on. Miss Lin, you should be grateful, I said, turning my head slightly, my gaze sharp as a knife. Grateful that I'm too busy building my career right now to bother reporting you to the police for forging medical records and defrauding the Shen family's assets. If you dare show your face in front of me again, I won't mind sending you to prison for a few years. You. Lin Man took a step back in fright, looking to Shen Hanchuan for help. Hanchuan, look at her, she's gone mad. She wants to destroy the Shen family. Shen Hanchuan, however, paid her no mind. His gaze was fixed intently on me, the emotion known as loss of control spreading wildly in his eyes. For the first time, he realized that the woman before him was not a caged canary he had raised, but an eagle whose wings had fully grown, ready to soar into the heavens at any moment. How much money do you want to keep the patent? Shen Hanchuan's voice carried a hint of weariness and compromise. I don't want money. I walked to the window, overlooking the bustling city of Haicheng. I want full ownership of the Shen Group's medical base in the western part of the city, and a handwritten apology letter from you, Shen Hanchuan, published on the front page of the Haicheng Daily *. This is impossible, Shen Hanchuan roared angrily. The medical base is the strategic focus of the group for the next decade, and an apology letter would completely disgrace the Shen family. Then there's nothing more to discuss. I picked up my bag and walked straight toward the door. Tomorrow at 3 in the afternoon, I will meet with your competitor, He Cheng from the He Group. I heard he is very interested in the technology one hold and is even willing to pay double the price, covering all my research expenses in the United States. Upon hearing the name He Cheng, Shen Hanchuan's breathing noticeably faltered. He Cheng was his only sworn enemy in the business world and the only man in Haicheng who dared to challenge him. Su Qingran, how dare you, he strode over, trying to grab my shoulder. I backhanded him with a heavy slap across his cold, aloof face. The force was so strong that it made his head snap to the side, and it also caused Lin Man, who was standing nearby, to scream in fright, Shen Hanchuan, remember this slap. I leaned close to his ear, my voice icy and piercing. This is payback for the 3 years of contempt you've shown me. Not only do I dare to collaborate with He Cheng, but I also dare to make you watch as the core territory of the Shen Group changes hands. Bit by bit, I pushed open the door and strode out of the CEO's office with my head held high. Behind me were Shen Hanchuan's furious roar and Lin Man's aggrieved cries. Inside the elevator, I received a call from He Cheng, Miss Su. The sound of that slap just now was truly delightful. On the other end of the line, the man's voice carried a hint of playful amusement. Looking at my radiant reflection in the elevator mirror, I slightly parted my red lips and said, Mr. He, a pleasure working with you, Shen Hanchuan. This is just the first move in the academic game. You want to clip my wings, but I'm after your empire. The downpour felt like 3 years of pent-up resentment, all pouring down in this one night. I had just finished migrating the last set of data in the lab and stepped out of the building when a glaring pair of high beams blinded me. Shen Hanchuan's signature black Maybach was parked sideways by the roadside, like a giant beast lying in wait. Within the curtain of rain, he wasn't holding an umbrella, just leaning against the car door. Rainwater streamed down his sharp brow, soaking his expensive white shirt until it clung to him, translucent, making him look more disheveled than I'd ever seen him. Su Qingran, let's talk. His voice was hoarse. As if scraped by sandpaper, I raised a black long-handled umbrella, standing still in the curtain of rain, with 3 meters between us. This distance was precisely the truest portrayal of our 3-year marriage, so close, yet never truly connected. Mr. Shen, cornering a single woman outside her apartment in the dead of night, this doesn't seem like your style. My expression remained indifferent. Shen Hanchuan stepped toward me, his gait somewhat unsteady. He seemed to have been drinking, a cold, sharp scent of whiskey lingering around him. Ignoring my resistant gaze, he closed in to the edge of the umbrella, his eyes, usually filled with cold pride, now bloodshot. Monon's child, that false child, I've already taken care of it. He stared at me, his tone even carrying a hint of ingratiation. I sent her abroad, never to return. Qingran, the position of Mrs. Shen has always been yours. As long as you come back, I'll give you anything you want. It was as if I had heard some absurd joke, and I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Shen Hanchuan, do you think all the women in the world have to revolve around you? You sent Lin Man away because you discovered she had deceived you and hurt your pride, not because you felt sorry for me. Don't dress up your selfishness as deep affection. It's not about pride. His voice suddenly rose sharply, and he tried to grab my shoulders with both hands, but I blocked him with the handle of my umbrella. It's because I realized that without you at home, that house is as cold as a cellar. I'm used to the porridge you cook, the flowers you place in the entryway. I'm used to. You're used to having a free nanny and doctor on standby, ready to take care of all your worries at any time. Right, I interrupted him, my gaze so clear it startled him. Shen Hanchuan, what you miss isn't me, it's that life where you were high and mighty, weighted on hand and foot. Unfortunately, Su Qingran is already dead. She died that afternoon when you accompanied Lin Man to her prenatal checkup. He shuddered all over, rainwater dripping from the tips of his hair and sinking into the soil. Do you really have to go to America? His tone softened, almost pleading. If you want a child, we can have one right now. Shut up. I felt disgusted. Even at a time like this, he still believed that a woman's value lay in reproduction, in giving him an heir to the Shen family. I turned and walked toward the apartment entrance, but he grabbed me tightly from behind. His soaked body radiated a startling heat, the madness of someone who had lost control. I won't let you leave. I've already had my secretary intercept your recommendation letter for the postdoc application. Without my permission, you won't be able to leave the country." He leaned over my shoulder, speaking with a fierce determination. "Chingran, stay by my side, even if it means tormenting each other. I won't let go." My heart turned completely cold in that instant. This man, even at the final moment, still thought of nothing but confinement and plunder. "Shen Hanchuan, do you really think you can stop me?" I calmly pulled a stack of photos from my bag and flung them backhanded into his face. It was a recording pen I had someone intercept at the airport before Lin Man was sent abroad. Inside, it clearly captured the conversation between Lin Man and Shen's mother. It turned out that the idea of Lin Man's pregnancy was actually a double act orchestrated by Shen's mother to drive me away for good. Shen Hanchuan froze, then released his grip and caught the photos scattered in the rain. In the pictures, his mother was affectionately holding Lin Man's hand, the two of them chatting and laughing in the hospital room, where was even a hint of the anger of being deceived. "You keep saying you'll give me justice, yet you can't even see through your own mother's schemes." I turned around and, right in front of him, took out the wedding album we had taken at the Civil Affairs Bureau 3 years ago from my bag. In it, I was beaming with joy. While he looked cold and distant, I tore open the first page of the album. It was a photo of us together. "Su Qingran, what are you doing?" Shen Hanchuan's eyes widened in fury. I didn't speak, only exerting force with both hands. Rip. The photo tore down the middle, my face and his completely parting ways. I casually tossed the fragments into the wind and rain, letting those memories I once treasured like jewels fall into the roadside gutter, buried in the mud. This photo album, I've carried it with me for 3 years, every page worn thin from my turning. I looked at him, no more ripples in my eyes. Now, to me, it's not even worth as much as trash. I tore each photo apart with my own hands, the fragments swirling in the rain, like a belated funeral. Shen Hanchuan frantically crouched down to pick them up, those soaked pieces of paper turning to pulp in his palms, yet he couldn't piece them back together no matter how hard he tried. Kneeling in the muddy water, his usual cold and domineering image vanished without a trace, humbled like a child who had lost his only toy. "Stop picking them up, Shen Hanchuan. Things that are dirty are useless even if you retrieve them." I watched the veins bulge on his forehead, saw his shoulders tremble with despair. Just then, the moving company's truck slowly pulled up to the door. Several burly men began efficiently moving my bookshelves and equipment. "Miss Su, all the luggage is loaded. Shall we leave now?" the lead worker asked. "Let's go." I stepped over Shen Hanchuan's body without even giving him a final glance. "Qingran," he let out a mournful sob from behind. I got into the car and started the engine. In the rearview mirror, Shen Hanchuan was still kneeling in the pouring rain, surrounded by shattered wedding photos scattered around him. Like a massive irony, he thought that by blocking my recommendation letter, he could block my future. But he didn't know that He Cheng had already personally written the key to the top university for me, and my independent offer had been sent to my backup email 3 days ago. That night, I not only tore up the photos but also shattered the shackles that had imprisoned me for 3 years. "Shen Hanchuan, in this game between you and me, you have lost completely." I sat by the floor-to-ceiling window on the top floor of Susa Law Firm, holding a glass of whiskey on the rocks. Susa is famously known in the legal world as the Iron Rose and is also my best friend from college. She handed me a 50-page asset evaluation report, her exquisite makeup barely concealing a hint of excitement. "Qingran, you've truly impressed me," she said, pointing to one of the data points. "Shen Hanchuan thought you were just arranging flowers and cooking at home these past 3 years, but he had no idea you used the pocket money accounts he gave you to strategically invest in the original shares of 3 biotech unicorn companies. The market value of those shares has now increased 4-fold. I gazed at the churning clouds outside the window and smiled faintly. The Shen family all think I come from an ordinary background and am not worthy of Shen Hanchuan. So his mother always enjoys humiliating me with money. Since she offers it, I'll take it. After all, a doctor's mind is best at logic and calculation. The most brilliant part, Susa tapped the table, is that although these accounts are in Shen Hanchuan's name, the operating IP addresses are all yours. And you've left a complete trail of evidence showing that the increased value is entirely the result of your intellectual labor, according to the supplementary clauses of our prenuptial agreement. Not only can you take all this money with you, but you can also use it as leverage to take over the equity of the Shun Group's overseas laboratory in return. I took a sip of the strong liquor, its spicy taste spreading in my throat. Shun Hanchuan always thought I was a clinging vine, dependent on him for survival, and would wither without his support. Little did he know that I had already grown my own forest beneath his roots. Just then, the office door was forcefully pushed open. Shun Hanchuan barged in with 2 personal assistants. He had clearly just come from a group meeting. His suit was slightly disheveled, and his usually calm face was now clouded with anger. Su Qingran, what exactly are you trying to do? He slammed a court summons onto the coffee table, his voice icy, filing for divorce, and demanding a share of Shun Group's core assets. Do you really think I won't take action against you? I set down my wine glass and motioned for Su Sa to leave first. The moment the door closed, the office fell into a deathly silence. Mr. Shun, everyone is equal before the law. I stood up, elegantly smoothing the wrinkles on my skirt. As for taking action, are you referring to continuing that childish game of blocking me, like intercepting my recommendation letter? Shun Hanchuan sneered, stepping closer to me. A chilling sense of oppression washed over me. I've already given you a way out. I've dealt with Lin Man. How much longer are you going to keep this up? Do you think hiring a lawyer will allow you to pry shares of the Shun Group from my hands? As long as I don't sign, this lawsuit could drag on for 10 years. You can forget about going to America in this lifetime. 10 years. I raised an eyebrow, pulling a copy from the folder. Shun Hanchuan, perhaps you haven't seen this clearly yet. What I'm claiming is not your Shun family's ancestral property. It's the independent rights to all the PR crises I handled for you as Mrs. Shun over the past 3 years, the academic papers I ghostwrote for you, and the appreciation accounts under my own name. I stared into his eyes, enunciating each word clearly. Additionally, this is the evidence I have gathered regarding Lin Man's long-term misuse of medication and acceptance of kickbacks at Shun Group's private hospital, and you, as the direct approver, are not only negligent but also suspected of covering up for her. If this evidence is handed over to the Drug Administration, do you think Shun Group's stock price can survive past tomorrow afternoon? Shun Hanchuan's pupils trembled violently. He had never looked at me with such an expression before. It was the gaze one would give an opponent, tinged with a hint of fear. Have you been spying on me? No, I am simply fulfilling my duty as a professional doctor to exercise oversight. I walked past him, stopping in front of him, and lightly traced my fingertip over the lawsuit. Shun Hanchuan, you now have 2 choices. First, we part ways amicably, sign the divorce agreement. Transfer those accounts and overseas equity to me, and we'll be even. Second, we meet in court. I will personally send Lin Man to prison and, in the process, drag the entire Shun Group down with your cheap first love. Qingran, you've changed. Shun Hanchuan gritted his teeth, his voice carrying an unprecedented sense of desolation. I haven't changed, I've just woken up. I looked at him coldly. I used to love you, so my intelligence was your blade. Now that I no longer love you, my intelligence is the death knell that will send you to hell. Just then, Shun Hanchuan's phone began ringing frantically. He answered the call, and his assistant's panicked voice came through. Mr. Shun, it's terrible. Miss Lin Man was taken away by the police on her way to the airport. They say she's suspected of large-scale commercial fraud and medical data falsification. Also, the He Group just announced that they've reached a patent licensing agreement with Miss Su. Our new drug project is paralyzed. Shun Hanchuan's phone slipped from his hand and fell onto the thick carpet with a dull thud. It was as if all his strength had been drained from him in an instant, and he slumped onto the sofa in despair. He looked at me, his eyes filled with disbelief and deep regret. So, you had already set the trap. You started the game first, Shun Hanchuan. I pushed a pen toward him. Sign it. Save yourself the last bit of dignity. Shun Hanchuan's hands trembled as he took the pen. His cold and aloof figure seemed particularly hunched at this moment. He had always thought I was a clay sculpture he could mold at will, but he never realized that within this sculpture lay a spark capable of burning him to ashes. The pen tip glided across the paper, making a rustling sound, the most beautiful melody I had ever heard. "The signature is done. You can leave now." I collected the agreement and walked toward the door without looking back. "Chingran," he called out from behind me, his voice low and humble. If it weren't for Lin Man, if it weren't for these 3 years, would we have had a chance?" I stopped in my tracks but did not turn around. "Shen Hanchuan, doctors never review medical records for conditions that haven't occurred. To me, you are nothing more than a malignant tumor that has already been excised." I pushed the door open and stepped out. Sunlight streamed through the corridor windows, bathing me in its warm, gentle glow. From the office behind me came the sound of something heavy hitting the floor, likely the arrogant, domineering CEO finally and completely breaking down. The venue of the International Medical Academic Summit was packed to capacity. Here, top-tier biomedical experts and investment tycoons from around the world had gathered, filling the air with a rigorous and tense academic atmosphere. Dressed in a sharply tailored, dark green haute couture suit, I stood backstage, peering through a gap in the curtain toward the first row. Shen Hanchuan sat in the very center. Despite the Shen Group's recent struggles, he still maintained his usual aloof and dignified appearance. However, his sunken eyes and slightly pale lips betrayed his current anxiety. He was here today to seek the last chance to salvage the declining medical division of the Shen Group, the rumored new technology set to be unveiled, which could completely reshape the landscape of genetic screening. And Lin Man had also unexpectedly appeared at the event. She used Shen's mother's connections to secure bail and is now sitting diagonally behind Shen Hanchuan, wearing heavy makeup in an attempt to hide her haggard appearance. Her eyes are fixed on the large screen with a venomous glare. She probably still dreams of making new connections with influential figures here to turn the tables on me. Next, let us welcome the chief invited expert of this forum, former deputy chief physician of Haicheng First Hospital, MS, Su Qingran. As the host's voice faded, thunderous applause erupted throughout the venue. Shen Hanchuan's body stiffened abruptly, his hand, which had been flipping through documents, freezing mid-air. He slowly looked up, his eyes filled with astonishment, shock, and a sense of absurdity at being toyed with by fate. I walked onto the stage in stiletto heels, my steps steady and composed. The spotlight shone on me, and I was no longer the patient wife in the consultation room, but the queen commanding this academic feast. Colleagues, the topic I will share with you today is medical ethics and technological authenticity. Examining industry boundaries through the lens of genetic fraud. Instead of rushing to announce the new technology, I first projected a set of comparative data. Before delving into the main topic, I would like to invite everyone to examine a negative example. The infrared pointer in my hand landed precisely on several sets of images displayed on the large screen. This is a recent case of fake pregnancy and medical record forgery that has sparked widespread discussion in Haicheng. In this case, an individual used hormone drugs to interfere with testing and colluded with illegal overseas medical institutions to forge genetic reports in an attempt to obtain substantial illegal profits. The audience below began to murmur and discuss. Lin Man's face instantly turned as pale as a corpse. She wanted to stand up and rush out of the venue, but several security guards maintaining order politely blocked her way. What's even more ironic, I turned my head, my gaze fixed directly on Shen Hanchuan, a cold smile curling at the corner of my mouth, is that the private hospital under the Shen Group actually facilitated such a clumsy scam. As the signatory at the time, to some extent, this is not only a betrayal of medical ethics but also a desecration of the entire healthcare industry. Shen Hanchuan's face turned from white to green, then from green to purple. He sat there like a Buddha statue stripped of its golden coating in public, enduring the probing and contemptuous gazes from all around. He never expected that I would, on such an international stage, personally drag the family reputation he was most proud of through the mud. "You're insane, Su Qingran. You're ruining your own future." Lin Man finally couldn't help but scream, but in such a high-end setting, her shriek seemed pitiful and ridiculous. I looked at her coldly. "Miss Lin, it is you who is ruining your own future. I have already submitted all the evidence to the court that you purchased illegal drugs through a medical intermediary and attempted to swap someone else's genetic sample. Your bail pending trial will end in 10 minutes. At the entrance of the venue, several uniformed police officers were already waiting quietly. Lin Man completely collapsed in her chair and, under the gaze of everyone, was escorted from the scene like a pile of mud. After clearing away the trash, I took a deep breath, and my expression turned extremely serious. Now, for the main event of the day, the independently developed, fully proprietary, non-invasive whole genome precision repair and screening system. As I flipped through my slides, the experts in the audience gasped in amazement. This was technology capable of reshaping the global healthcare valuation landscape. Shun Hanchuan stared intently at the screen, understanding the commercial value of this technology better than anyone else. If he hadn't divorced, the Shun Group would have soared to become a global healthcare giant on the strength of this innovation. But now, every word, every symbol of this technology had nothing to do with him. The presentation concluded, and the entire audience rose to their feet in applause. I stepped down from the podium and walked through the corridor, surrounded by countless media personnel. Shun Hanchuan blocked my path, his eyes red and his voice trembling uncontrollably. Qingran, is this what you've been hiding from me all along? If you had told me earlier, I could have built you the best laboratory in the world. We could have. Shun Hanchuan, there are no IFS in this world. I stopped in my tracks and coldly interrupted him. I kept it from you before because I loved you. I wanted to give you this achievement as a gift for our 3rd wedding anniversary. But the gift you gave me was bringing your first love to my appointment for a prenatal checkup. Shun Hanchuan took 2 steps back, as if struck hard in the chest by a heavy blow. Now, this technology has been licensed to the He family. The era of the Shun Group in the medical field is over. I walked past him without looking back, heading toward the sunlit exit. Behind me, Shun Hanchuan stood like a soulless shell, isolated as a deserted island amidst the bustling crowd. In the Shun Group's conference room, the atmosphere had dropped to freezing point. On both sides of the elongated mahogany table sat shareholders with grim faces. The elders who once obeyed Shun Hanchuan without question were now slamming the table, throwing stacks of dismal green stock charts in front of him. President Shun, you once guaranteed that the medical sector would be the group's cash cow. What happened? Because of that scandal involving your first love, Shun Group's reputation is completely ruined. Now, even the overseas suppliers we had agreements with are unilaterally breaking their contracts. How do you plan to fill this funding gap of over $1 billion? Shun Hanchuan sat at the head of the table, his once aloof and noble features now etched with exhaustion. 2 buttons of his shirt were undone, and his eyes were bloodshot. The price of not having slept for a full week. I'll handle it. His voice was hoarse, but the usual confidence was gone from his tone. Handle it? With what? One of the Shun family elders snorted coldly. The He Group now holds Su Qingran's technology and has already taken over 60% of our market share. If you can't win Su Qingran back, there's no need for you to remain in the CEO position. Just as the meeting room descended into chaos, the main door was pushed open by 2 black-suited bodyguards. I stood at the entrance, dressed in a sharp silver-gray suit, my long hair neatly tied back, holding a black business folder in my arms. Behind me were the He Group's chief legal team and 2 analysts holding tablet computers. Shun Hanchuan abruptly stood up, his previously lifeless eyes instantly flashing with a light mingled with hope and pain. Qingran, you've come back. He strode over, wanting to reach out and touch my shoulder, but I sidestepped to avoid him. Mr. Shun, in a business setting, please address me as Professor Su, or Representative Su. I corrected him coldly, then walked straight to the front of the negotiation table, the seat directly opposite his. I tossed the folder onto the table, producing a dull thud. To all shareholders of the Shun Group, good day. Today, on behalf of the He Group and my personal research team, I am here to discuss the asset liquidation of the Shun Medical Base Project. Asset liquidation. Shun Hanchuan's face turned pale, his voice trembling. Qingran, that project is my final endeavor. I've already applied for a mortgage loan. Just give me some time. Mr. Shun, you won't be able to secure that loan. I interrupted him, gesturing for the analyst behind me to display the screen. Over the past 3 months, the Shun Group has been suspected of misappropriating research and development funds to handle Lin Man's personal public relations debts, and there are suspicions of falsification in multiple clinical data. The bank has already blacklisted you, and I, as the technology holder, have revoked the authorization for all core patents of that base." A collective gasp echoed through the conference room. The shareholders exchanged glances, and all their anger was directed at Shen Hanchuan. "Shen Hanchuan, you actually embezzled research funds. Have you lost your mind?" Shen Hanchuan stared at me intently, as if seeing me for the first time. The sense of defeat from being outmaneuvered left him almost unable to stand. "Qingran, do you have to be this ruthless? What good does destroying the Shen family do for you?" "Destroying the Shen family?" I leaned forward, bracing myself against the table, closing in on his gaze. "No, Shen Hanchuan, you're the one destroying yourself. When I was working day and night in the lab, you were accompanying Lin Man to buy jewelry. When I was staying up all night writing proposals to solve the Shen family's financial crisis, you were helping Lin Man suppress scandals. And now you want to talk about feelings, about consequences." I took a letter of intent to acquire from my bag. "The final, fatal blow to the Shen family. The He Group is willing to purchase the entire medical sector of the Shen Group at 30% of the market price. In return, we will leave the Shen family's other industries with just enough to survive. Shen Hanchuan, if you sign this contract, you can still keep the Shen family's ancestral home and preserve your mother's vanity as a wealthy socialite. If you don't, the Shen Group will enter bankruptcy proceedings in 3 days." Shen Hanchuan stared at the contract, which was almost equivalent to a deed of servitude, his hands trembling uncontrollably. He was once the coldest and most aloof CEO in Haicheng, a god that all women flocked to, but now, he could only stand before me like a prisoner awaiting sentencing. "Su Qingran," he spoke almost humbly, "if I transfer all my shares to you, if you're willing to come back and take charge, I'm willing to step down. I'm willing to." "I'm not willing," I interrupted coldly. "Shen Hanchuan, I am now a strategic partner at He Corporation and an invited postdoctoral fellow at an Ivy League university. My journey is among the stars and the vast sea. While you are merely a tumor in my life that has already been removed and will never recur." Shen Hanchuan closed his eyes in pain, a tear tracing down his cold, handsome face. He finally realized that the young doctor who once had eyes only for him had grown into a queen he could no longer reach. Trembling, he signed his name on the acquisition document. That moment marked the complete collapse of Shen Hanchuan's era, and I personally took over his empire. In the deep autumn on the campus of Haida University, ginkgo leaves had blanketed the ground in a golden hue. I returned to my alma mater to complete the final procedures for transferring my files, never expecting to see Shen Hanchuan again under that century-old tree, where our initials were carved. He was wearing a thin grey cashmere sweater, his once meticulously styled hair now slightly disheveled. He had lost a great deal of weight, and his once cool, aloof demeanor now carried a withered, almost lifeless air. "Qingran, do you still remember this place?" His voice trembled as he held a stack of old, yellowed letters in his hands. "These are the letters you wrote to me back then. I haven't thrown away a single one. I found them all and read each one again." I stopped in my tracks, watching the letters tremble in the autumn wind. They were the most sincere expressions of love from my youth, but now, they felt like a stack of old, bitter irony. "Mr. Shen, let's skip the reminiscing." I glanced at my watch, my tone polite yet distant. "I have 10 minutes to spare. If you're here to ask me to invest in other sectors of Shen Group, I suggest you contact my secretary directly." Shen Hanchuan gave a self-deprecating smile, his eyes instantly reddening. "I'm not here to talk business. Qingran, I'm sick. The doctor says I have severe anxiety and insomnia. Every night when I close my eyes, all I can see is you walking out of the clinic with your suitcase. I know I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. Could you, for the sake of the past, give me another chance?" He tried to reach out and tug at the corner of my clothes, his movements utterly pitiful. "For old time's sake." I let out a light laugh, my gaze gradually turning cold. "Shen Hanchuan, the old times you're talking about, are they the times when I worked part-time to pay for my tuition while also assisting you academically, or the times when I rushed through the pouring rain all over the city to help you find samples in an emergency? That affection was completely exhausted by you long ago, when you silently allowed your mother to humiliate me and when you brought Lin Man to see me as a patient." Just then, a black car pulled over by the roadside. He Cheng's subordinate approached. Looking hurried, "Miss Su, something has happened to Mr. He. His old illness has suddenly flared up, and none of the experts in the city can handle it. He specifically asked for you to go over." Shen Hanchuan's expression changed. "He Cheng, that's his retribution. Qingran, you can't go save him. He's my sworn enemy. He's been using you to target the Shen family all along." I coldly brushed his hand away. In a doctor's eyes, there are only patients and the dead, no rivals, and Shen Hanchuan. Even if He Cheng used me, he gave me enough respect and an equal platform. But you only know how to clip my wings. I turned and got into the car. Through the window, I saw Shen Hanchuan chasing after the car like a madman. "Qingran, if you save him, you'll never come back." "Qingran." The car sped away, leaving only dust in its wake. Half an hour later, I appeared in the VIP operating room of the private hospital. Lying on the operating table was indeed He Cheng, but he wasn't actually suffering from an old illness. He had faked it to lure me out. He leaned against the head of the bed, his face pale, yet he swirled a glass of red wine in his hand, smiling like a cunning fox. "Professor Su, if I hadn't pretended to be sick, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to see you before you went abroad." I took off my mask and looked at him expressionlessly. "Mr. He, playing with your own health is disrespectful to medicine. If you want the exclusive additional terms for that patent, we could have discussed it face-to-face directly. I don't want the terms." He Cheng set down his wine glass, his gaze turning unprecedentedly serious. "I want you. As long as you're willing to stay, I can transfer half of the He Group's shares to your name. Everything Shen Hanchuan can't give you, I can." I look at this man who is the most dangerous yet also the most successful in Hai Cheng. Yet not a single ripple stirs in my heart. "He Cheng, you and Shen Hanchuan are actually the same kind of people. You believe everything has a price, including a woman's future." I walk to the window and point at a passenger plane taking off in the distance. "What you want is an excellent partner or a glamorous facade. What I want is to stand in front of the operating table, in the laboratory, on the award podium, living as an independent Su Qingran." I take a document from my bag and slap it on the table. "This is my gift in return. Shen Hanchuan once saved my life, and now, by saving your project, I have completely repaid that life-saving favor he did for me. From today onward, I owe him nothing, and I owe you nothing." As I walked out of the hospital room, I happened to run into Shen Hanchuan, who had chased me here. Seeing me come out of He Cheng's room, his eyes were bloodshot, and he seemed like a man who had snapped his last string. "Su Qingran, you'd rather save him than look back at me." I walked straight past him without even a glance in his direction. "Shen Hanchuan, your regret comes too late. I don't need your redemption, because I have long been my own god." I never imagined that Lin Man would go to such extremes. On the night before I was set to fly to the United States, I received a call from an unknown number. On the other end, Lin Man's voice was hoarse and desperate, accompanied by the howling wind. "Su Qingran, if you want to see Shen Hanchuan one last time, come alone to the West Suburb chemical plant. Otherwise, you'll be left to collect your ex-husband's body." I let out a cold laugh. Although Shen Hanchuan's life or death was no longer my concern, I knew Lin Man still held onto a hard drive containing core data leaked from my lab, the last bargaining chip she had stolen from Shen's mother. For that hard drive, I drove to the plant. The West Suburb chemical plant had been abandoned for years. The air thick with the pungent smell of chemicals and the scent of rust. I pushed open the rusty iron door, the beam of my flashlight sweeping across the room. There, I saw Shen Hanchuan, tied to a chair, a cloth stuffed in his mouth, his body covered in dust and bloodstains, and Lin Man, her hair disheveled, stood on a high control platform, holding a simple detonation device in her hand. "You finally came." Lin Man laughed maniacally, her face twisted like a vengeful ghost in the flickering light. "Su Qingran, you destroyed everything I had, my reputation, my child, my position as Mrs. Shen. Today, I'm going to make you watch with your own eyes how the man you love most dies for you." The moment Shen Hanchuan saw me, his pupils contracted sharply. He shook his head frantically, making muffled sounds in his throat. His eyes filled with terror and a desperate plea for me to leave instead of screaming or begging for mercy like an ordinary woman. I calmly turned off the flashlight and crossed my arms. "Lin Man, Since you lured me here for that hard drive, there's no need to act out this life-and-death tragic romance. My tone was as calm as if I were making rounds. Did you think kidnapping Shin Han-chwan could threaten me? You probably forgot we're already divorced. His life is worthless to me. Lin Man froze, not expecting me to be so composed. You're lying. You loved him for 7 years. How could you not care whether he lives or dies? That was before. I walked toward her step by step, my high heels clicking crisply in the empty factory. The Shin Han-chwan of today is just a medical accident in my life. Lin Man, you should be worried about yourself. Did you think you could run away with that hard drive? It's encrypted. Forcibly accessing it will only trigger the self-destruct program and, by the way, expose your location via GPS. The police are already on their way. Shut up, Lin Man screamed, pressing a button. A muffled thud echoed from deep within the factory, and flames instantly erupted. Shin Han-chwan struggled violently in terror. The chair toppling over, Lin Man completely broke down. She raised the torch, wanting to charge at Shin Han-chwan. At that moment, Shin Han-chwan, with a surge of strength from who knows where, managed to break free from the ropes. Before the flames could spread, he lunged fiercely at Lin Man. Chingran, run, he roared, not to save himself, but to desperately wrap his arms around Lin Man's waist. Trying to drag her away from the pile of flammable materials, the dagger in Lin Man's hand plunged deep into Shin Han-chwan's shoulder, instantly staining his shirt with blood, but as if he felt no pain, he stared at me with bloodshot eyes, his gaze filled with what he believed to be deep affection and the tragic grandeur of sacrifice. He thought that this moment of risking his life to save me could win back my forgiveness, but I just stood outside the safety cordon, watching this farce coldly. I took out my phone from my bag and pressed the end call button. Shin Han-chwan, let go, I said calmly. The next second, urgent police sirens blared outside the factory, over a dozen fully armed SWAT officers smashed through the windows and accurately fired tear gas. Lin Man was quickly subdued and pinned down in the mud. Shin Han-chwan clutched his shoulder, staggering over to me. His face was smeared with ash, blood mingling with tears, making him look disheveled and pitiful. Chingran, I saved you. I finally saved you once. He extended that blooded hand, trying to touch my cheek, his eyes holding a humble hope. Can we call it even now? Can we start over? I took a step back, avoiding his blood-stained hand. Shin Han-chwan, you're mistaken. I glanced at Lin Man being escorted into the police car, then back at him. That phone call just now, I wasn't dialing the kidnappers. I directly connected to the police's surveillance system. Even if you hadn't lunged forward, the sniper would have ended the standoff within 3 seconds. Shin Han-chwan's hand froze in mid-air, his eyes gradually dimming. Your redemption was not only unnecessary, but it almost ruined the police's arrest plan. I picked up the fallen hard drive from the ground, carefully wiping off the dust. Also, stop saying you sacrificed for me. When you lunged at Lin Man just now, it was more about easing your own guilt, about convincing yourself that you're still that noble, devoted young master Shin. No, I really wanted to protect you. He choked up, his body trembling slightly from blood loss. Shin Han-chwan, true protection would have been keeping Lin Man away from me 3 years ago. It would have been respecting and cherishing me every single day for the past 3 years. I turned around and walked toward the exit. This kind of affection, salvaged from the ashes, is too cheap. I don't want it. I walked out of the factory building, the first ray of morning sunlight piercing through the darkness. Shin Han-chwan knelt in the ruins, watching my resolute back, and finally let out a cry of despair. He finally understood that some things, once broken, are broken forever, even if you try to mend them with your life, they can never be restored to their original form. Haicheng International Airport, departure hall. Beyond the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, silver passenger planes took off one after another from the runway, soaring straight into the sky. I pushed a lightweight suitcase, wearing a minimalist beige coat, with my long hair casually draped over my shoulders. Freed from the shackles of the title Mrs. Shin, even the air here felt exceptionally liberating. Professor Su, here is your boarding pass. He Cheng, standing behind me, handed me the documents. His complexion had improved significantly, though a trace of reluctance still lingered in his eyes. Mister, you can see me off here. I politely accepted the pass, maintaining the most professional distance. I've already sent the integration plan for the remaining assets of Shin Group to your email. I hope that in our future cooperation, we can continue to maintain this purely business relationship. He Cheng let out a bitter laugh and asked half-jokingly, Qingran, are you really not reconsidering staying in Hai Cheng? You're already at the top of the medical field. If you go to the US, you'll have to start everything from scratch. Life in the lab is tedious and exhausting. He Cheng, you're wrong. I turned my head to look out the window at the vast sky. In Hai Cheng, I'm always tangled up with the label of Shen Hanchuan's ex-wife. But over there, I'm just Su Qingran. Dull experimental data is far more fascinating than hypocritical human relationships. Just as I was about to head toward the security checkpoint, a series of hurried and chaotic footsteps sounded behind me. Qingran, Su Qingran, Shen Hanchuan appeared. He was wearing a crumpled suit, his chin covered in a stubble of unshaven beard. His once cold and proud eyes were now bloodshot, filled with a shattered plea. He was being held back by several bodyguards in the distance, yet he still desperately shouted my name. Qingran, I beg you, don't leave. I'll transfer all my shares in Shen Corporation to you. I'll leave with nothing. I'll work as an assistant in your lab, even if it's just washing test tubes. Don't abandon me. Passengers around them turned to look, unable to believe that this domineering CEO who commanded the business world in magazines was now crying like a child who had lost everything. Right in front of everyone, I stopped walking but didn't turn around, just stood there calmly. Shen Hanchuan, don't you understand yet? My voice was soft, yet every word was clear. You're begging me to stay because you're sick, you're suffering from habitual dependency syndrome. You can't accept that the person who was always holding the lamp behind you has suddenly stepped into the sunlight. You don't love me, you love your own pitiful need for control. No, I love you, I truly love you. He screamed with a heart-wrenching cry, trying to break free from the bodyguard's restraint. Love. I turned around, looking at him through the crowded crowd, a relieved smile curling at the corner of my lips. Shen Hanchuan, if you really loved me, you should have supported me when I was filling out my postdoctoral application, not intercepted my recommendation letters. If you really loved me, you should have stood in front of me when Lin Man provoked me, not watched me become a laughingstock. I took a neatly folded piece of paper from my bag and casually tossed it into the air. The paper flipped in the air and landed at Shen Hanchuan's feet. It was a diagnosis report, stating that due to long-term psychological suppression and emotional trauma, he suffered from severe psychogenic erectile dysfunction. As your former attending physician, this is my final medical advice to you. Let me go, and let yourself go. Shen Hanchuan, your illness is not in your body, but in your heart, and I no longer wish to be your remedy. I walked into the security checkpoint without looking back. Behind me, Shen Hanchuan let out a desperate cry, ultimately collapsing to his knees on the cold marble floor. He watched my figure disappear around the corner, finally realizing that he had personally killed the Su Qingran who loved him most, and the me now was a star he could never reach, no matter how hard he tried in this lifetime. 3 months later, the early morning in Boston carries a crisp, cool scent of grass and trees in the air. Dressed in a white lab coat, I move through the most advanced genetics laboratory of the Ivy League. The crisp clinking of test tubes and the flickering glow of complex algorithms on the screen fill me with an unprecedented sense of fulfillment. Professor Su, here are this week's clinical simulation data. The results are absolutely perfect. A young American assistant excitedly shows me the report. If you're willing, we can prepare to apply for this year's Nobel Prize in Medicine nomination. I take the report, glance at the experimental data that represents hope for countless women, and smile faintly. This is just the beginning. The goal of medicine isn't towards its freedom. During a break, I opened my phone. On the domestic news headlines, the Shen Group was completely liquidated due to multiple violations. Shen Hanchuan has completely retired, and I heard someone saw him in a remote nursing home, where he spends his days staring blankly at a shattered photo, looking dazed. As for Lin Man, due to multiple serious crimes, she will spend the rest of her life behind bars. I scrolled through these messages with an expressionless face and clicked permanently delete account. The sunlight outside the window was dazzling. Standing on the rooftop of the teaching building, I looked down at the entire academic city, without the melodramatic marriage or the obsessive love and hatred. I have finally built a kingdom of my own, Su Qingran's kingdom on this foreign land. I was once that river that lost its way, circling in frustration through the valley named Shenhanchuan, but now, I have finally surged toward the starry sea that belongs to me here. I am no one's wife, no one's shadow. I am Su Qingran. I am myself.